Hey guys, my name's Chris here, and I'm giving a review of a rifle I recently purchased a while back from Classic Firearms here. It's the SKS type. I'm making it for Classic Firearms here, so you can see what type of rifles to expect whenever you order one. The one I got in front of me right here is the typical Chinese AK. There's the front. Here's the side picture, there's the back picture right there, and there's the top from the top down, and there's a picture from the bottom as well too. The rifle, bought it when they had the sale on there, and I paid the extra for the hand pick for the matching serial numbers and overall cosmetics of the gun. Basically, when I received the gun, it was completely, I'd say completely covered in cosmoline on all the metal parts, and most of the wood was covered in cosmoline. It was heavily packed in cosmoline, so it was definitely accurate to the letter for the description on the website, basically, I'm saying. And it took me about 4 hours to completely clean the gun up on itself too, because this gun had a lot of cosmoline. I had to basically boil most of the metal parts on the gun by itself, the whole trigger mechanism, everything else, and stuff like that. And the stock looks in relatively good shape. It does have nicks and stuff like that. It got a little chunk taken out right up here in the top on it, but it's really nothing. The stock's in still relatively, I'd say okay to fair to okay shape. It's not as bad as I was going to think it was. I'll give you the highlights of the gun that I noticed right here. Overall, the gun is in relatively okay shape. All the metal you can actually see from on the outside right here is in okay shape. The barrel is in, I'd say, perfect shape. The barrel is in basically mirrored shape. The barrel actually looks better. I'm embarrassed to say it, the barrel actually looks better than my couple AKs I got. I got a couple Arsenal AKs, and basically this barrel actually looks shinier than the new production AK barrel out there for that. Bayonet looks good, doesn't have any scratches or anything else like that on it. Gas tube up here looks clean. The gas piston was good. The rear sight block back here is good. All the parts are matching on there. The bolt's matching. The bolt carrier's matching. All the parts are matching on here, and that's basically all the good highlights I found on there. Now to the negative stuff, the cons. The cons are, whenever I disassembled it here, I noticed there was rust on the actual bolt here, bolt and carrier. I basically had to polish the bolt on my wire grinder down there to grind off some light surface rust on the bolt carrier as well too, because the bolt carrier had a lot of rust on the side here, and on the side with the charge handle, and on the other side here by the lightning cut. The bolt itself had a lot of rust on it. The bolt face had quite a bit of rust on it. I just soaked it for a couple days in some rust, basically nut buster. It's a PB nut buster, and I soaked in some parts cleaner, and I scrubbed it out real hard with a couple wire brushes, and I put it on a real fine light grinder for the basically wire grinder brush, and it basically grind off the majority of the rust. The lower hand, or I should say the lower magazine holder down here, had a fair amount of rust on it here too. It almost went basically through the magazine holder. Let me get it open here. This thing's always a bitch to stick on here. These things stick all the time on my other ones. You can see right here, let me hold it in my different way here. You can see right here, there's a hell of a lot of rust right here on the front portion of the mag well. Basically the rust is so bad right here, it's almost completely through the metal part right there on that, and I was a bit disappointed because of that. And also on the other side of the receiver here, let me show you that as well too. You probably can't really see it, sorry about that. Right down here where the receiver meets the wood grain on the top right here, it had a big patch of rust. It basically right, I'd say about almost like a $1/2, or I'd say about a size of it was bigger than the size of a quarter. Basically, it was between a quarter and a $1/2 size piece right here, right below the your serial number right here. This one is a low numerical serial number, and it does not have the cartouche for the factory 26, so it's probably a ghost one. But it's a low model, or yeah, sorry about that. Low numbering for the serial number on there for that. It starts with 1, which means it was, I believe, made in 1957, right after the Soviet version out there for it, which is made in 56. Stuff out there for that. So the difference you can tell between the Sino-Soviet version out there and the one the Chinese made, because the Sino-Soviet ones was manufactured in Russian tooling and everything else, and the Russians implemented basically their version of stamping for your serial numbers. It had an alphanumeric character, like the Russian ones. They'll have like an alpha A or a B or a C or something on it. They don't have a 4-digit code immediately after that. You can tell the Chinese ones, like this one, they started putting the 1 or 2 either before or after the factory lettering on it. This one is an early, I believe it's in 1957, so I did extensive research online, and everything I find indicates it's a 1957 type, because the serial number only has 6 digits on here. It starts with the number 1, and from what I heard from guys online say, the serial number 1 starts with 1956, because this Chinese started making them themselves in 56, and or I should say late 56, and 57 and on after that, and so on for that. So that's basically the designation for that. The other point that I noticed on here, I'll actually take it out here and show you. Your trigger, the whole trigger assembly, I should say, it's a little bit lopsided to the left of the gun insider. I actually took, I'll show you here. I'll take it apart here. Take the thing out of here. Rear disc cover. Take the bolt and bolt carrier out there as well too. And there we go. Set that aside. Down inside here, your trigger assembly. What we're going to call it, trigger assembly, or trigger arm. We're going to call it down there. It's slightly to the left, and I actually swapped out the original trigger in here, the matching serial number 1 in here, and I put my other Chinese Sino-Soviet one in here, and it's doing the same thing. It's slightly to the left, which means there's something slightly off in the receiver right there, and it doesn't look like it's hitting anything out of the whack on it, because I tested, I took up the range and put 100 rounds through it, then it shot 100 rounds with no problem on her. But the trigger, let me see, you can see it better here. It's slightly to the left over here. It's not completely in the center right here as my other ones are, and I don't know if it's a downside, but I talked to a couple people online about that, and they said it shouldn't matter as long as the gun fires okay and it's not rubbing against the inside of the receiver on there. If it starts rubbing the inside of the receiver, I'm probably going to call Classic Firearms and probably give them hell over it. But as of right now, I put 100 rounds through it, and it seemed to be cycling fine. The bolt, oh yeah, I almost forgot. The bolt on here, whenever I took it originally apart, I had to put another firing pin. I had to put another firing pin in here, plus the firing pin retainer pin as well too, because the original firing pin in the bolt here was basically crap. I took it apart, and apparently something happened whenever I don't know who was using it last. It had a big scalpel mark on top of the area where the little raised part where your I'll show you here. Your retaining pin sits. Here's your retaining pin right here. Your retaining pin locks the firing pin into the bolt assembly, and this thing was toast. Basically, it had a bunch of scrape marks on top of this thing here, and the original firing pin that I took out of here was all scraped up, and I didn't want to chance it and try to file down and put it back in there. So that's another negative right there. So you got 2 negatives. Well, I said you got 3 negatives on the bolt. You had a lot of rust on this thing. The firing pin was screwed up. The firing pin retainer pin was screwed up. The bolt carrier had a lot of rust on it. It does not have it now because, as I said before, I soaked it heavily in boiling carb cleaner plus nut buster to bust up the rust on it as well too. Everything else was matching. However, it did have rust, as I said before, on the bottom of the mag well right down here. You can probably barely see it, as I said before. There's rust built up right on here. It's almost clean through the magazine holder for that. And as I said before, the trigger mechanism down, actually the trigger assembly as they call it, is slightly off to the left hand side. It's not completely in the center. as my other SKS'S have in her. So I'd say those are the only negatives I noticed here for that. Other than that, it still shoots okay. The barrel, as I said before, is perfect, in perfect condition. It shoots fine. It's pretty accurate right now out of the box. And if you do buy these, I'd say you're gonna be looking at probably 3 to 5 hours for cleaning these things out, because I had to use about 2 balls of brake cleaner, a couple balls of carb cleaner, some nut buster can, and let me see what else I use here. I basically boiled the firing your bolts and your bolt, anything else, bolt carrier and stuff like that, all the hard parts and stuff like that in solution. Plus you clean the barrel as well too. So that's basically a review of the gun. I'm satisfied with the purchase as of right now. If the gun starts giving me problems in the future, I'll probably amend this video sometime in the future. If it does give me problems with the trigger mechanism, I actually ordered another trigger mechanism from a buddy of mine up in Wisconsin, and he's going to ship me out another trigger mechanism off an early Chinese, and hopefully I can probably stick this one on here, and hopefully it might not give me any problems, because the one he's going to ship me out is probably going to be a relatively in good shape and new condition out there, even though this one's slightly canted. Well, basically, you probably can't really see it here, but you get the idea. Your trigger hammer right back here should be basically in the middle of the slot of the milled part right there, and it's slightly over to the left on there. And it seems to be okay right now, but it's something I may worry about, and you never know if it's going to get any worse than what it is right there for that. So I just want to make a note of that right now for that, as well as the excessive rust underneath the stock right here, and on the trigger the magazine hanger up by the front part of the stock right here as well, had excessive rust almost all the way through the magazine bullet holder right there as well too. But I'd say right now I give it about a 70–75%. I'm satisfied with the purchase. However, I'd say it's about 3 out of 5 stars for it. It could have been better. I did ask for hand-picked for the matching numbers. I did get that, so that's definitely a fact-based thing I got for that. Overall cosmetics, the gun, the bluing is in, I'd say, about 90–95% shape on her for that, so I can't bitch and moan about that at all. Classic Firearms did that. But the gun still does have a couple problems with it on her because of the rust, as I said before, and that trigger slightly off to the left. If you look straight down from, say, like you're looking straight down here like this, and it's slightly off to the left, and I don't know if it's going to give me any problems in the future, but it's something to worry about right there for that. So hopefully anybody else doesn't have the same problem as I do right here with mine, because like I said before, I swapped the trigger out with another trigger, and it's still the same thing on the other ones, because I had a couple other SKS'S. They're early Soviet ones, and I swapped them out here because basically the trigger the same damn thing in there, and it's slightly off to the left, so where the trigger actually bolts to the bottom of the receiver, it's probably slightly lopsided down in there, and I hope it don't get any worse than what it is. So if it does, I probably might call it Classic Firearms and ask for some kind of a refund, maybe on my selection for the overall conditioning quality of the gun for that. But as of right now, I give it about a 75%, 3 out of 5 stars on the gun. I'm still satisfied with it. It does shoot okay for me right now, because I took up the range, as I said before, and I put 100 rounds through it, and it cycles fine, it shoots fine. It's not giving me any jamming problems, stuff like that, and the bore is basically perfect. It's spotless in there. I couldn't ask for a better bore. The chamber and the breech is in great shape. My other SKS's, their chamber is not even half as good on here for that, but this one looks perfectly good for that. So for the barrel and everything else on her, except for the mentioned items I told about the rust and the slightly cockeyed trigger, I'd say it's still a good gun for that. So anybody has any questions, comments, whatnot, you can leave them on my page here, and I'll try to answer any questions that you may have. Once again, this is a review for Classic Firearms for a purchase I made a while back about the SKS, the classic early milled version of the SKS, the 1956 and on type out there for that. So that's my opinion, that's my review, and you can leave a comment if you want to on the bottom of my page. I'll see you guys.